What is going on, YouTube? This is Jim back with another video, here to give you guys my final thoughts on the Man of Medan, or if you want to be fancy, the Man of Medan. What a really cool concept. Very similar to what we saw when Supermassive, who also makes this game, Supermassive also made Until Dawn. And it's a very cool concept. It is almost a virtual story that is being told with decisions you have to make, sometimes verbal, sometimes via QuickTime event, which will determine the fates of people. Yes, people will die, but the story must go on. And the first time I played through this, I unfortunately only saved 4 of 5. I was able to play through after a saved state and save all 5, and I got the good ending. But I'll get into the endings and some of that spoiler stuff later on. I want to start off with talking about non-spoiler stuff. And I want to tell you guys that this game is cool, but I want to preface it with some caveats that I want you to be made aware of. First and foremost, this game is short. The entire game can be beaten on a single playthrough, I'd say about 3.5 hours. And that means you're basically walking through everywhere, checking all the treasures, all the lights that are glittering, because it's like, hey, there's something here. You walk over and press A, or X if you're playing on a PlayStation. And it's going to be like, hey, there's something here, and you can click on it, and your character will pick up a book, or they'll look at a note, or something will happen. They'll pick up an object, whatever happens to be. You could ignore all that and just like basically walk right to the door if you think that's what you need to do. Sometimes picking up something will help you. Sometimes it will hurt you. Unfortunately, you don't always know how that's going to quite pan out. But the more you kind of invest in the world, in my opinion, you're going to get a better appreciation of the characters. You're going to get a better appreciation of the story. And I think you're going to have a more satisfied ending. Now, you can go back, obviously, and play again, because this game does feature over a dozen different endings, where some characters live, some die, some choices are made, which will open or close entire chapters of the game. Yours may be a little bit longer if everybody's alive doing lots of ancillary stuff. But if a character dies, their part of the story is gone forever, and you're not going to get to see it. So if you like the idea of playing through things multiple times and seeing what different paths go on and like what choices lead to it, you're going to love this game, because there's a lot of really cool interweaving story elements. But if you're like somebody who's just like, I want to play it and see what it's about, but then I don't think I'm going to go back and play it again, you may not like it as much as I did. But I still think it's fun, and I still think it feels like it defends and warrants its own purchase price in of itself. Now, the decisions. The decisions are really, really cool. You're going to be able to choose dialogue between multiple choices, sometimes saying nothing, and sometimes that's the best thing to do. You're also going to have QuickTime events that could be life or death. Typically, a QuickTime event means you're in a fight with somebody, or you're about to get eaten by a monster or something, and you better press the right button or you're dead. And it can happen incredibly, incredibly rapidly with seemingly no notice whatsoever. You could be in what you appear to be a cutscene. A QuickTime event will appear, you will fail it, and you will die just like that. So I like that. It keeps you on your toes. It keeps you engaged. The fact that it has a static camera angle is another really cool element of this game. They're going to direct everything you see. It's like you're watching a horror movie. So the camera's going to pan slowly, and it'll show you things that they want you to see in the order they want you to. That will eliminate some of the exploration, because you're not going to be able to freely look in every room. Some rooms are only going to be modeled from certain directions. You're only going to be able to walk down corridors in particular ways. But because they have that creative control, and they've taken it from you and they've put it solely in their hands, they're the directors of the movie you're experiencing, you are definitely gonna get some major jump scares. And I lost my mind easily a dozen times, screaming out loud, petrified, heart racing, oh my God. And then when I played through it a second time, I knew where the jump scares were, but because I made different choices, they were in different places, and they got me again. And that puts a smile on my face, because I really felt invested in these characters, and I really felt invested in seeing them through to the end of their story. Now, it's not all roses though, okay? There's some things about this game that are incredibly frustrating. The technical issues are just insane. And I don't understand why both this game and the Walking Dead series, or pretty much any Telltale game, honestly, has such a hard time merging the story back together without just a litany of cutscenes. or I'm sorry, not cutscenes, loading screens. I had loading screens and cutscenes based on what a character was about to say because I guess it was processing the choices I made. So like two characters walk in a room and one character would be like, hey, how are you? And the other character would say, well, and then it would be like loading. And then it'd be like, I'm great, loading. And then it'd go back to like the first character talking again. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to me? And I feel like there are all these decision points, and there's a slew of them. And if you ever look at this game, I'm sure people have really like laid out some of the decisions you can make. Not along the lines of like Detroit Become Human, but you get a kind of rough feel for like what choices lead you where. It seems like the game has a hard time processing all those and putting them back into like main story beats. And it seems like they broke it down to such a small degree that, you know, yes, there is a trait system, so characters will interact with each other differently. And yes, depending on certain objects you pick up, it will impact not only how the character looks, obviously, if the guy's holding like a steak knife versus like, you know, not holding a steak knife or something, that will obviously be a different load. But like, you know, even the way they talk, they might be more aggressive now because they're holding a weapon. So it's like a totally new game, but unfortunately, it just has a hard time loading and processing that. And I found a slew of loading screens in places that just didn't really seem to make sense. There's also a lot of graphical hitching and like loading in constantly as well. And it's like the game was rebuilding itself as you were playing along. I think it'd probably be a lot better on PC, honestly. I was running this on my Xbox One X, and it brought that thing down to its knees. It did not run well at all. And it was really, really disorienting in times when I was really getting into a moment, and then you get a really weird hitching cutscene, or worst case, I lost the character because the game was loading. It was a loading screen overlaying on top of a QuickTime event. I was unable to press the button. And because I was unable to press the button, my character died. And I was like, I didn't do that. I didn't have any choice. So I just want to mention there are some technical limitations to this. But you know what? I still recommend it. I think it's a really fun game. I'm glad I beat it. I know that the Dark Pictures Anthology has another game coming out very soon, A Little Hope. I don't know how related it is to this. This is a pretty standalone story. Probably the only carryover will be the Curator. And the Curator is a phenomenal character who's just watching from afar. There's a lot of times it cuts to him in his weird library, giving, you know, direction and talking to you about the choices you made and the rights and the wrongs that you had. It was very cool. I don't want to say too much more about this unless you've played it. So I'm going to jump over to the spoiler section now. I'm just going to leave it that I think you would enjoy it. Now, for everybody else who hasn't played it, turn off the video, save this for later, and come back to me after you've watched it, after you've played it, okay? For everybody else, let's get into the good stuff, and now it is spoiler time. The cool thing that I loved about this game was that early on in the very, very beginning of the game, when both Alex and Julia are underwater, and Alex is telling Julia they can't come back up to the surface of the boat yet. You think there's an explosion. It turns out that Conrad's being an idiot and he lit the grill on fire. But you think there's an explosion. Something bad's happening. If you play too fast with Julia and bring her up to the top and she drinks a beer, she'll die at the end of the game. She'll just straight up die. Which is so crazy that a decision that you make, just a throwaway decision at the beginning of the game, absolutely impacts the rest of the game. I found that fascinating. I really liked, there was some definite weirdness going on with those pirates coming on. It seemed like maybe they were up to no good with Fliss. It never was really explained in the story. I feel like that was definitely like a hindrance to the game. I felt like Fliss probably should have had a little more character development, but by the end, I totally could see Brad and Alex getting closer. I thought Conrad was interesting. They kind of hyped him up as like this cover man. He was gone almost the entire story. You know, in my playthrough, he did survive escaping on the boat, but at the end, when everybody left, he was on the boat alone. When everybody leaves on the Duke of Milan, you know, he was stuck on the carrier or whatever you want to call it, the frigate, and he went insane by himself for the rest of his life, which I thought was kind of sad, honestly. But he was kind of a douche, and honestly, in a sense, it's kind of like a justice because he got him into this mess to begin with. When the people came by the first time and he was being a jerk to them, he probably instigated a lot of it. So in a sense, it's kind of like, well, maybe you had it coming. I don't know. I died with Fliss the first time. I love the twist that poison made you see things. And there's a really cool moment for me when I pieced it together. When Fliss walks through this really creepy ballroom, and it's like there's this weird seance, and there's like this Satan star in the corner, all this weird stuff. You walk through, you open the door, and you're outside, and you get fresh air. And you come back in, and then suddenly you see everything for what it is. That moment, I realized I made a horrible mistake arming all my characters. And that's, sure enough, here comes Brad with a freaking wrench. And that was the QuickTime event that I failed. And Brad, thinking Fliss is a zombie, smacks her on the head and murders her. And I was like, oh my God. I did not see that coming. I did play through it again the second time, though, and I was able to successfully save Fliss. I just love the choices in this, and reading through the various endings of who lives and who dies. There's an ending where the Marines will come and kill everybody. There's an ending where they all go to jail. My ending where they all live. The ending, obviously, where they all die. It was a very cool experience, and it really does warrant, I think, more playthroughs. The only thing that with the plot, and I mentioned this a little bit in the spoiler-free section, the only thing that frustrated me a little bit with the plot is I think sometimes it was a little bit too much serendipity, and there was a little bit too much of placement of characters just magically because it made sense. The fact that they kept getting scattered and reuniting, the fact that there was only like maybe a dozen real unique levels in the boat, you keep walking through with every character. The fact that they weren't running into the pirates really at all until very key moments in the game seemed a little odd to me. I kind of feel like maybe they could have done a better job of, diversifying where they were. The fact that they all just show up constantly in the same place and are all reunited, it's like, really? Like, how many times are we going to turn the corner and, oh, there's Fliss, and oh, here's Julie, let's all go. Like, it just wouldn't make much logical sense to me. And then, the last part of the scene when you're fighting with one of the pirates, Olsen, kind of like the lead pirate, that was a really weird engagement because the first time I got the one ending I got, I actually completed the QuickTime event incorrectly, and the distributor cap broke, which caused the boat to be inoperable. Conrad shows up with his boat. We're all still trapped on the boat, minus Fliss, who died thanks to the stupid QuickTime event. And we all leave. And that was like a great ending because we're all reunited. The second time I played through, I successfully completed the QuickTime event. I saved the distributor cap. We left. Conrad shows up after we're gone, and he gets the bad ending. And I'm like, so I'm being punished for beating the game like the way, like if I had perfectly completed the QuickTime event the first time, the same thing would have happened. So it's kind of like almost in a sense, some of the decisions don't really make sense. And it's like, oh, to get the best ending, you actually have to fail a little bit to succeed. It seemed kind of weird. I hope maybe that in the next game, they kind of rethink the algorithm. I can't really think of a time in which failing something in a game actually gave you a better ending. But other than that, what a phenomenal game. I can't say enough good things about it. Man of Medan, check it out. Hope you guys enjoyed this really late review. Thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.